Assalamu alaikum and good day, everyone. Welcome back to the ICB podcast. My name is Adam Seifel, and today we're going to be talking about harmony, games, and identity. Will that take over?
Yeah, so we just celebrated our Harmony Day, and it was an amazing celebration with 52 different cultures, nationalities, ethnicities present there, and 35 different languages. So it was a fun day. But my name is Ali Kadri. I'm the CEO of Islamic College of Brisbane, and I've got some of my Year 12 cohort with me today, talking about Harmony Day and identity, in particular Australian identity. So introduce yourself and let's go on.
Hi, my name's Zaahid Khan from Little ICB student from Indian background.
Obviously.
Faris?
My name is Faris. I am the son of the vice president of the oil community in Brisbane. I'm also ICB prefect.
Okay, beautiful. Look, now, first of all, guys, I have to congratulate you for an amazing show you guys put up with the Harmony Day celebration. The flag march was amazing. For those who haven't seen it, it's on the Facebook, and the video will come out soon. I also want to congratulate and thank our captains who did an amazing job in hosting and emceeing the show, which was great to see. But a few things which came out, and I think few discussions which need to happen. And one discussion in particular, which we had after the prayer in the prayer hall, was yes, you all mostly were born in Australia, your parents come from different culture, and it's great to be proud of that culture. But what is your identity? Are you Australian? Are you Australian Indian? Are you Uyghur Australian? Or you're just simply Australian? Or you're simply Indian? Or simply Uyghur? So, Zaahid, I'll start with you, man. Tell me, what do you think about that?
Honestly, regarding me, I guess I'm pretty much Indian. I regard myself as Indian, not as Australian, because the way I live my life, the way I do things, honestly.
Okay. So, I don't think you, though, in my opinion, live like an Indian. I mean, an Indian in India doesn't live like that. Okay. So, obviously, there'd be a significant influence of Indian culture on your life. But do you believe that you live like an Indian? Because, look, I have a context a bit different than you guys. I lived half my life there, a little bit more than half my life here. So if I was to sort of take you to India and you were to live in India, they'll be able to very quickly identify that you're not from there, okay? They'll think that you have some ties, but you're not from there. But do you still think then you're Indian? Because I believe that that difference in you, that change in you, is a result of you living in Australia, and that means that Australian culture, in one way or another, has a rub off on you. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, in some sense, I do agree with whatever you're saying, but yeah, if you look at the demographic of India, there's many cultures, many religions. I'm the Muslim Indian, South India, predominantly Chennai.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I don't speak the exact language, so they will know that for sure. But yeah, they will continue with
Culture, language, and these things, I mean, and nationality are a different thing. You could speak Tamil or a language, and you could be a Muslim, but you could still be Australian because Australia has got those cultures as well. What I'm trying to get at is, you have Australian identity. Do you realize it or you don't? And that's what I'm getting at. I'll come to you, man. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. So, I'm from Indonesia, but
Were you born here in Australia?
yeah, I was born in Perth.
So you're not from Indonesia?
Not, but I am from Indonesia because my parents.
Okay, your parents are from Indonesia. Yeah, fair enough.
So, yeah, I'm in like that position where to the Indonesians, I'm Australian, but to the Australians, I'm Indonesian.
Very nicely put.
Yeah.
And
It's most of us, yeah.
what do you think you are?
Yeah, but for me, to be honest, I don't know. Like, yeah, as I said, the Indonesians think I'm Australian, the Australians think I'm Indonesian, so I'm like in the middle somewhere where I don't really.
I understand that. I'm just saying, what do you think? Or have you ever thought about it?
No, because to be honest, it doesn't really affect my life that much. I don't really care, to be honest.
Okay. How about you, Faris?
So, all of my heritage is oil. So, I identify as oil. I practice oil culture. But obviously, like, I don't live like an oil. I live most of my life in New Zealand, but I came to Australia in 2015. I speak like an Australian. I walk like an Australian. I wear Australian clothing. except for today, obviously. But yeah,
CEO. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, there is something which a lot of people talk about is identity crisis. Okay, and identity crisis is basically where you are confused about your identity because a lot of our identity is formed by what we think about ourselves, but also what others think about us, right? So sometimes our identity is formed by what other people think about us. But it's very important that we have to, come to a solid identity. And it's okay to be an Indian Australian. It's okay to be a Muslim Australian or Indonesian Australian, because that means that you are of an Indonesian heritage, but you're an Australian citizen. Just like some white person could be a British Australian or a Scottish Australian, right? Except for indigenous people, nobody is actually from this land. So the reason I brought this up with you guys is because you guys live here. If I was to take you to India or take you to Indonesia or take you to East Turkestan, you will be fish out of the water there. People will very quickly know that you're not from there.
yeah, definitely.
Right? Especially if you open your mouths, right? So they'll know that you're not from here. So then they will think, and you pointed out very nicely, that they will think you're Australians. But do you guys, when you go there, feel like you're Australian or you want to fit there? Do you feel proud of being Australians?
Of course.
No, if you go there, mate.
If you go there,
No. Sometimes when I go there to Indonesia, I purposely make myself more Australian so I can seem different and more interesting.
Really?
Yes. So then, so the Indonesians there would like to be around me more.
Right.
Yeah.
And Zaahid, what about yourself?
Yeah, I honestly would be the same as Adam. I would portray myself as more Australian, speak an Australian accent, do things Australian way.
When you go there?
Yeah.
How are you, Faris? When you're traveling?
Now, probably the same as these guys. But before, like when I was 4, I went to East Turkestan in 2012. Or 4 or 5 around that time. I wanted to fit in, spoke Oyo fluently somehow. And my cousins and relatives, they all wanted to pay me money to speak English, but I wouldn't speak it. Because I wanted to fit in with them.
Wow. So look, it's interesting that when you guys go there, you want to portray yourself as Australians. But when you're here, you feel that you're not Australian, or you're Indian, or you're Indonesian, or you're from East Turkestan. Do you think it's because of racism? Because you feel that there are people out there who, because of your virtue of your religion or culture or ethnicity, may not accept you as Australian? Do you think that's got a role to play? So if you, let's say, for example, go out on the street, you are thinking that a lot of people look at you and think, oh, these guys are migrants, they're not from here. And that kind of makes you feel that, okay, we're not from here and we want to be part of the culture we come from. So do you think racism plays a role?
Yeah, it definitely plays a role, but it's not the full story.
It's not the full story. Okay, what else plays the role?
It's just, how your parents want you to be, I guess.
But to be honest, I mean, all our parents want us to be a certain way,
Yeah.
no matter where we live. Even if you lived in East Turkestan or you lived in Indonesia or you lived in India, your parents would want you to be a certain way. And trust me when I say that we don't turn out how our parents want us to be. Sometimes we turn out to be better, sometimes we turn out to be worse. And, parents always have the best expectation.
Yeah.
As far as you guys are concerned, this is a curious thing in my mind, right? Because I hear this all the time. When you guys describe yourselves, you say, I'm an Indonesian or I'm a Muslim, and these guys are Aussies when you talk about the white people. But being an Australian is a nationalist identity or a national identity. Being a Muslim is a faith identity, and being Uyghur is a cultural identity. So these are mutually exclusive. They're not the same thing. So why do you call white people Aussies and yourselves Muslims? I don't understand that.
Yeah, because when you ask someone, when you say Aussie to somebody, in their minds, they're thinking some white bogan that comes from Logan, you know what I mean? So,
But is it really? I mean, do you think that, why then, if somebody thinks Australian, why don't they think of an Aboriginal person? Because they're more Australian than a bogan from a Logan.
yeah, that's because that's what we see every day nowadays, We don't go around, and in Australia, when we walk around, we don't see like Aboriginals every single step of the way.
Right. So this is because, but even like, say, for example, if you bring somebody, an alien, land them into, and who knows nothing about humanity, right? Land them into Lakemba in Western Sydney, or land them into Karabi, they will think that the Australians are Muslims and they all eat kebabs, and they're either Lebanese or Arabic speaking, or now in Lakemba nowadays is Bengali, by the way. So, you know, that's what alien would think. But this perception which is created because of the majority population, because of racism. Do you think it's important to break that? Because connecting it to the first part, it causes identity crisis amongst the migrants. Because more than 50% of Australians are either born overseas or have a parent who is born overseas. So you guys are majority. I mean, we are majority. Unfortunately, like, you know, we shouldn't stereotype that every Caucasian Aussie is a bogan, because there are some really highly educated Australians as well. I mean, Caucasian Australians. So I think the identity crisis comes from that issue, and it's a problem. I see it as a problem. Do you guys see it as a problem?
I think it's fine. I think that that you know the Aussies want their own like culture and everything. Cause let's say for India, when you go to India and there's a white person there, and maybe he's actually from India, maybe he has an Indian citizenship and everything, but when you look at the white guy in India, you don't first think, oh, he's Indian, you know.
But look, again, India as to correct you there, you know, there used to be a white actor, who was a British guy who was born and brought up in India, and he grew up speaking Hindi. That's 1 in a billion, truly billion, you know. But here in Australia, it's a different kind of country. It's a young country. So let's say, for example, fast forward 100 years later, you guys will have 3 generations by then. So your great-grandchildren, they may or may not know nothing about Indonesia. Okay? They may not care about Indonesia. They may even dislike Indonesians. Okay, it's possible. And that means that, you know, by you guys being here, born and brought up, you are Aussies and you're raising Aussies. So why not embrace that identity? Because I see a problem with that. And the problem I see is that if you think that you don't belong in this country, that you don't participate in making decisions for this country, whether it's by joining politics, whether it's understanding what the culture is like, how to influence the culture, or have your opinion or say, because you feel you can't ever say because you're not from here. Don't you see that as a problem?
Actually, yeah, no, I do.
You do?
Yeah, because you know, but the thing is, the Australians, they want like their own like what India has, you know, they want.
But this is what I mean. When you say Australians, you are Australian. So who are you talking about? Do you know what I mean? Like, you are Australian, he's Australian, I am Australian. And you know what? I want multiculturalism. Hundreds of Australians want multiculturalism. Millions of Australians have no problem with Islam, right? And in this country, everybody has a right to live the way they want to live. Okay? That's what it's all about. So why can't we say that we are Australians? Zaahid, do you think the same?
I can reassure your statement. 20 years ago, Australia had a crisis with their old age population.
Mm-hmm.
They had to bring immigrants. That was the only way, because there was no young workers to work for them for the next 30, 50 years. So they had no other choice but to bring immigrants from Southeast Asia, Asia, subcontinent.
No, when you said they, you're saying we.
Yeah, we
Us, we didn't have a
So
yeah.
I
Even
get-
now we have that problem. Yeah.
I guess there is some hatred in Aussies, but not to an
In
extent.
some Aussies, because
Yeah.
obviously I'm Aussie, I don't hate.
Yeah, but not to an extent as it was 20 years ago or 50 years ago, I guess. So
Plus, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I think basically, as you said, you separated it, like this national identity and your heritage. I think you should keep your heritage, yeah, keep your language and stuff going, but you can identify as Australian, that's fine. You can participate in politics and all that, but just keep that heritage.
Beautiful. So now look, the reason I'm saying this is because if we talk about the culture of our country, in our country, in Australia, we embrace diversity and multiculturalism. Okay, we actually celebrate it. We celebrated Harmony Day, right? We celebrate different cultures. So it's an Australian thing to do today to celebrate diversity.
Yeah.
And do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Okay. It's Australian thing to do to have churches and mosques and synagogues and temples. It's an Australian thing to do. Now, still though, in the mindset of some people, they think that Australia is a white country and it should remain the white country, and that's why they're racist against migrants. But if we, as children of migrants, or migrants think that they are right and they're Aussies and we are not, aren't we making the racist people correct?
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that a wrong thing to do?
Yeah. You should definitely.
Yeah. So that's a challenge for us, right? Now, we're going to go to a second part of this and have a discussion on something a little bit more controversial. Okay. So I'm going to throw a question to you guys. And the question is, let's say, for example, you guys are prime ministers of Australia or in a very significant political position. Okay. So you're a foreign minister, defense minister, whatever it is. And you have to make a decision. In that decision, you're going to compromise the interest of the country where your parents come from. Okay? You're going to compromise the interest of the country where your parents come from. If you don't do that, then you will compromise the interest of Australia. Okay? You don't necessarily have to harm that country. So you understand my question, right? So let's say you're a defense minister of Australia, and there comes a time when you have to make a decision where you have to choose Australia over India. Who would you choose? Whose interest would you choose?
Choose Australia.
Okay, Australia's interest? Okay, so this is my position on the matter of choosing interest of countries. When I say interest, if I as an Australian Indian was put in a position where I have to choose the interest of Australia versus the interest of country I was born in, I will choose the interest of the country which is on the right path. Okay, definitely. So what my principles are derived from my faith is that, let's say, for example, and I'll put Indonesia here in the picture. If Indonesia, which is a Muslim country, attacks Australia and oppresses Australian people, okay? So attacks without provocation, attacks Australia and oppresses Australian people, I will fight against Indonesians, right? Because, I will fight against oppression to protect and defend myself. Same way, if Australia make laws which are going to be oppressive against Indonesians, oppressive against Papua New Guineans, or even oppressive against Israelis, I will speak out against that law. Okay? Because I will speak out against oppression. That's my belief. What do you guys think about that belief?
It makes a lot of sense, actually. Because, yeah, I mean, because they're the ones that are wrong. To fight against the wrong, that's good. But if both countries are like equal and everything, then I would pick the country that's my own, which is Indonesia.
But is it your own?
Yeah, because if I stay in Indonesia for like, let's say like 5 months, I can look and speak and feel just like on.
I agree. But you have lived here, and again, let's go back a little bit. You guys think that being an Australian is being blonde, being blue-eyed, being white, and being, on the beach surfing. Is that what you think about Australian identity?
That's just him.
It's just him. You think that's Australian identity?
Yeah, okay, same.
It's just.
But okay. So you think that's an Australian identity?
Yeah, that's what comes to my mind when I.
Okay. But when I think of Australians, I think of Aboriginal people playing didgeridoo. Okay? That's what I think of Australians. When I think of Australians, I think of a child of Indonesian migrants coming to Australia, right? Still wearing Indonesian shirt, but in an Aussie way, which is half open, and wearing sunglasses indoors, right? So you know what I mean? That's what I think. When I think of an Australian, I think of a son of an Uyghur migrant, who comes to Australia and wears an Uyghur shirt, but talks like an Australian. And when he speaks Uyghur language, he's got an accent, right? Same thing when I think of a Australian of an Indian origin. I think of somebody who's got an accent when he speaks Indian, but he's very fluent in Australian accent.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about Australians when I think about Australia. And that way I feel comfortable because I can own this country and I feel that this is my country. Don't you think it's better? If you are deciding to live here, if you're deciding to move on and live in Indonesia and that is denounce your Australian passport and go there and live there, then maybe that's fine.
Yeah, but like, if you come to Australia because you like it and it's better than your own country, then that's good. But you can't just rule out your entire heritage. You can't just rule out, I'm not there anymore. I'm Australian now.
But we're not ruling it out. What we're saying is that you are of that origin.
Yet, since I'm from there, I don't uh, identify as an Australian more than I identify as an Indonesian.
So you identify more as Indonesia. But when you said you go to Indonesia, you try to show off that you're Australian. Why?
Yeah, because to make me feel different, so then they come and they want to talk to me more, and I feel more interesting.
But that's what I don't understand. Then when you are here, you don't want to be Australian.
I know, but when I'm there and I stay for like 5 months, then I can be one of them and everything. But by living in Australia, I've been here for like all my life, like 17 years, and I still don't feel like that Australian type people.
You don't feel like you're Australian. But is it because of you in your head? Because you think that Australians are blonde and all Australians should be blonde and blue-eyed and be surfing on the beach topless?
Yeah.
Is that why?
Yeah.
So don't you think that's your problem? That's a problem? Yeah?
Probably just me.
Yeah, but you have a thing that you're Australian, and Australian can look like you, okay? Can act like you, can be like you. That's what kind of I'm getting into. But I'm happy to. I want to hear your opinion on this, Faris, identity-wise.
Identity-wise. So like as I said before, like if my country gets its independence back, I would go there, help build it up. Hopefully they allow dual citizenship, multiple citizenship, get citizenship of both countries, so that when I'm finished building my country up, I can come back to Australia and live here. Because obviously, if you see new countries when they're formed, they're not going to be like the best, obviously. So just live here.
So you're going to support
environment.
You're going to support developing your country.
Yeah.
Your country, right?
Yes.
So let's say East Turkestan get independence from China.
Yep.
You, as an Australian, go there of Uyghur heritage, go there and support building that country.
Yeah.
Which is a good aspiration. Now, let me ask you the last question. What do you guys think that us, or you guys in particular, can do and cannot do because of your parents' backgrounds? So what are the things you can do in Australia, and what are the things you cannot do? And we're not talking about in Karabi or Underwood or ICB. I'm talking about generally what you can and what you cannot do. Zaahid?
I guess, like if you take for example surfing, it's not in Indian heritage. It's like a westernized culture, mainly Australian culture, and maybe like gambling, going on late nights in the city. That's not that's still a westernized culture.
Yeah.
And some other small things like drinking, swearing, obviously, having good etiquettes, keeping a good house clean, stuff like that also.
Okay. And what can you do? What can you do in Australia? I mean, do you think you can become a politician or a news anchor or somebody who is in public eye and be an Australian doing that?
Yes, definitely.
You can?
Yes.
Okay.
Through my actions, simplified way, correct manner, don't do anything fraud or any like controversies. Have a good life. Be respectful to all religions. Yes, I can.
How about you, Faris? And then last word to you.
So I'll do if I can do anything halal, basically, and I can't do anything haram. Well, I try not to, at least. If I was in like a senior position, I would always remember, go back to the Quran, the Sunnah, the Deen. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Okay. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think out there, I could do whatever I want really because of Australia, but except for, breaking the law. And if I want to go gamble and party, I can do that, but I don't because of stuff. But yeah, I think I'm pretty free to do whatever I want.
Okay, good. So do you think most countries are like that? Where there's freedom to do whatever you want to do?
No.
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 No? So do you think we have more freedom than most countries?
Yes, definitely.
Then most countries, yeah.
Most countries, yes.
You be quiet, man. What do you think?
Huh? But yeah, I think I agree.
You think? So don't you think it's worth protecting?
Yes. I highly am.
Yeah, it's worth it. I want you to think this way. Don't form an opinion to please anybody. Don't form an opinion to please the Indonesian community or Muslim community or non-Muslim community or Caucasian community. Form an opinion because it's a right opinion. Does it make sense? So you might feel that, I'm going to say this, and probably the Indonesians are going to think that I betrayed my nationality, or my parents are going to be like, hang on a second, come home. I've got to stick out, you traitor. Because that's not what opinions are for. Opinions are not for pleasing anybody except for your creator. And the only way to please your creator is to be true to yourself. That's what it means to be true to yourself. It's not easy, difficult, but it's the right thing to do. So with that in mind, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, after today, when I walk out that door, I'm going to change my mindset. So when I look at Zaahid, I think Australian. I think Aussie. When I look at you, I think Aussie. I look at him, yeah, Aussie. So yeah, I'm going.
When you look in the mirror? That's actually a good point to end this. But look, thank you very much, boys. It was an amazing discussion, and we should continue this offline. And I think you're all Aussies, and I'm really proud of all my students here at Islamic College of Brisbane. And that's it. All right. Thank you, guys. That's all for tonight, and catch you up on the next one.
Like, subscribe, comment down below.
Okay, yes. Look, hang on. Subscribe. Look, by the way, we need more subscribers. We need more people to like, comment. And if you want to join this podcast, get in touch with us. And our behind-the-scenes team, which makes everything happen, will consider your application, and you can be on the podcast with us. Okay, Assalamu alaikum and good day.